Bonjour, Homeworthy. I'm Sandra Sigman. I'm so honored to have you here in Paris with me. Let me show you around and I'll bring you to my apartment.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Bonjour, I'm Sandra Sigman. I own a French-inspired floral home garden store in Andover, Massachusetts, but I'm now here in Paris at my apartment in the 6th arrondissement. So I was so fortunate to come to Paris in my early 20s. I actually came to work here for 18 months. Funny story, everyone thinks I came to study abroad. I actually came because I was a figure skater with the troupe Holiday on Ice. For you Americans, Stars on Ice is kind of a common name, but over here it's called Holiday on Ice, and the headliner of our show was Katharina Witt. And she was the German Olympic champion. So we were based here in Paris because we had to go visit a lot of the European countries. But I always loved coming back after those long trips and just being immersed in the gorgeousness of Paris. I came from a very New England home. I grew up in the Boston area. So to come to Paris and to see the big boulevards and the bridges and the buildings, I was so smitten. I fell in love. It truly was a place that was so special to me. After living here for 18 months, I decided, at 21, it was time to retire and to head back home. And I remember driving to the airport the last time, and I looked over my shoulder and I said, this can't be the last time I live in Paris. And for about 25 years, I've not stopped talking about living someday back here in Paris. But I think my husband was, after like 25 years of me talking about this, he and I had a conversation one time, and it was COVID. I think we all were just in this place about like, what is life about? You know, life's too short. We've been through something really kind of crazy, and we had a conversation about what our next phase step would be, because our children were getting older. Our last one just went to college, so we were becoming empty nesters. And I remember saying a comment about how our friends were moving to the city, to Boston, and I thought, well, I actually rather go to Paris. And he said, I would too. And I was like, are you kidding me? I was so excited. I actually had a realtor here in Paris that I knew, and I said to my husband, are you serious? Because I'm going to call him. And he said, yeah, let's go for the weekend. We made the reservation. We hopped on a plane. I mean, we were just coming out of COVID. I think vaccinations were just coming through, and we were allowed to come back to Europe. So masks, it was the whole 9 yards. So we had to be very strategic about what appointments, where we were going, and how many apartments we could see. So we did have some thoughts of what we wanted. Of course, budget is one of them, but my realtor did say to me, now Sandra, you know Paris pretty well. Where are you thinking? Like, what arrondissement, what neighborhood? And I used to live in the 8th, and the 8th is wonderful. It's near the opera. There's a lot of commotion. There's a lot of energy. I really liked it, but I always navigated back to the left bank, the Saint-Germain-des-Prés. The 6th arrondissement was my favorite, and my realtor was like, okay, so you want to be in only one neighborhood? And I said, actually, there's this one street I love. And he was like, whoa, one street, one arrondissement? Okay, would you entertain any other areas of Paris? And I said, sure, anything in this area. We went for the weekend. On Friday, we landed on Friday. We had about 5 appointments to see apartments in this area. And on Saturday, we could only get 3 apartments that we could view. Unfortunately, Sundays were out of the question. They do not show apartments on Sunday. And we were leaving on Monday. We actually came to Paris, stayed in a hotel, went and saw all the apartments the first day, and I would say I had a wish list, and the wish list was this: that I don't live here full time, so I didn't want a major renovation. The second thing is I wanted it to be bright and airy. I didn't want to feel like I was like in a closet. And the third was the location. So most of the apartments we did see on that Friday were just not anything we fit what we were looking for. And I will say I kind of came home back to our hotel and was a little sad. The next morning, my husband woke me really early, nudged me and said, "What about this apartment? This is in that area you like." And I said, "Where did you find that?" He said, "I found it online." And of course, I sent the link quickly to our real estate agent, and he said that had just gone on the market that Friday, so the day before. And I said to him, "Can we go see it?" And he said, "Absolutely not." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because I'm never going to find the realtor who is the listing broker that will show it to you on a Saturday morning or Saturday." And I said, "Please, we're only here through Monday. Could you try?" And he said, "Of course, I will try." And he got back to us about 45 minutes later, and he said, "They're willing to show you the apartment now." And I said, "Right now?" And they said, "Yes," because the real estate agent had to go babysit her French grandchildren and wanted us to only, come and see it that morning. So we literally threw clothes on. We were completely jet lagged. We raced over to where the apartment was, and I still get chills thinking about this. And you know how they talk about manifesting? We drove up and it was the street I always wanted to live on. And to this day, I still get choked up about that because, you dream and you just don't think dreams will come true, but it sort of is my little Parisian dream. And we walked in and it was everything we were looking for. Nothing too huge, 8 beautiful balcony windows with lots of light coming in. And it was pretty special. And we bought it on the spot. Thank you to my husband who gave me the nudge, because the real estate agent said that there were 5 people coming to view the apartment on Monday. So we took a big leap of faith and we said, yes, we will take it. And I remember leaving the apartment and we both looked at each other and we said, "We think we need a drink." And of course, you're in Paris, they serve alcohol all day long. So we toasted with champagne at 10 o'clock in the morning, and we looked at each other and said, "Oh my goodness, what did we just do?" And I remember my husband holding my hand and said, "You know what, honey, life is too short, and let's do this, and let's jump, and let's take this dream, and we can always sell if it doesn't work out." We are now in the entry, and what I really love about this, there's a lot of light coming through. It's our own little private entrance before we head up into the apartment. But how I wanted to kind of feature this very small area is with some beautiful artwork that I found. These are actually sketches I found at one of a street fair called Porte-à-Vent, and what I loved about these is I think they were like €25, so not terribly expensive, but then I had them all framed and grouped together so it kind of lands this wall in a nice showpiece to the entry. So most apartments have really tons of staircases before they enter the apartment. I am so fortunate. We just have this one little staircase, so come on, follow along. I love this cute little area right when you come to the landing. It's kind of my little nook with these gorgeous exposed beams, which is part of the home in the inside of the apartment. But what I did is I kind of got some old books, some beautiful artwork, some gorgeous pottery actually I found in Provence. Ries Argal is her name. Lovely ceramic artist. And this stone urn I found also in Saint-Ouen, and it kind of anchors in. I had to add some French lavender for a scent. So really just so charming. Here we are in the salon, and this is actually my favorite room. And I love it so much because it really allows me to have the room to do a lot of things. When I used to stay in hotel rooms, I'd bring all my antiques back and I'd have them everywhere and I couldn't walk anywhere. So this is like gives me some space to kind of move around. Also, if I want to entertain and have my groups here from my tours, we can have, like I said, our petit déjeuner and really entertain nicely. So when I was creating this room, the most important thing was, of course, furniture. So I thought I needed to get some modern furniture. I thought antiques would be a little tough for my 5 boys and my husband to sit on. So I was actually got the chairs and the sofas first. These are actually Italian. They're from a company called Natuzzi. So comfortable. They have a little swivel to it. So I got my base first, and then I started bringing in all the other elements to the apartment, especially the antiques. One piece in this room that I need to talk about is this beautiful marble fireplace. I feel it anchors the room, gives it a focal point. This is actually mantle that we found in Saint-Ouen at Marc Maison. And when we went to find the mantle, it was actually a cute story. We actually, on the other side in the kitchen, you'll see where the mantle once was. And of course, when renovations took place, they took it out. So we wanted to recreate this kind of effect here. And when we were choosing one, my husband made the joke that we are probably purchasing the one that was taken out of the apartment, and now we're putting it back in. But I do love it. Unfortunately, it doesn't, there can't burn wood here because of the old flutes. They found it was a fire hazard, but I still love how elegant it looks, and it was one of my favorite purchases. On one of our last trips, I said to my husband, we need some art. I can't do any more antique art because I started feeling like this was starting to look like my grandmother's apartment. So I really wanted to get some modern art. So we went to some beautiful galleries in the Marais, also here in Saint-Germain-des-Prés. So I was so fortunate to find this oil abstract art, and it was the most perfect size. We walked in, and you know when you know something is instantly going to be perfect? Well, I saw this and I said to my husband, this is the one, we have to get it. And of course, I didn't have a measuring tape, but I knew it would be perfect. I paired it with a really modern vase that I did get locally at one of the art galleries here as well, and I thought I just filled it with some pretty viburnum. So it's really lovely to change it up. The other thing, for all your Catholic schoolgirls out there, I went to Catholic schools my whole life. This is a very old 1930s candlestick with the Virgin Mother Mary. I just thought it was so kind of cute, and it has little hearts on the base here. And I feel like I love Paris, so I thought this brought a little joy to the mantle and also kind of played off of the modern vase. This was something I desired so desperately for this space. This is a chest of drawers, a commode. I went to a famous flea market called Chateau, which is the Brocante de Jambon, which at first I was like, what is that? And it's basically the fair of the ham. And lo and behold, they are roasting pigs there, and they have like big ham dinners. So it's a fun place to go to look for antiques. And when I turned the corner and saw the dealer had this beautiful commode, I instantly ran to it because I knew it would be absolutely perfect. And it's super old, I would say the late 1800s, and it is all oak and brushed and has a nice sheen to it. So it's really one of my favorite pieces. And also, if we have folks stay here and they need to put their clothes here, it's really a nice kind of storage unit as well. Also at this famous fair Chateau, besides eating the ham, I actually saw this plaster, and it's a mock-up for artists to make before they're going to make it in bronze. And I don't know, I fell in love. I felt like it's just kind of like a guy sitting on a base, and I thought he had a lot of character, and I thought he would be perfect for in here. So the dealer told me it was an artist that did end up making this in bronze. I said, I can't afford the bronze, but I will take the plaster. So a prized possession. Love all of this kind of antique vintage, mirrors, and I love these little chandeliers. I think they're so darling. It doesn't work, but I still love it. And the other thing, I found this mirror in Saint-Ouen. I love how it has the old mercury that's coming through. It's just not perfect. And I feel like, in life, what's perfect? So for me, this was just so fitting. And I love the reflection of light, and it bounces off the window. So that was another reason I wanted a mirror here. Picking art for the salon here, I saw this black and ink etching, and I thought it would be absolutely perfect. I love how I kind of just wedged it in here with the detailed modern black frame, which I just loved. And then of course the old candlesticks, I just have a thing for them. I love the ironwork and the leaf motif to my floral days, so one of the reasons I chose those as well. And then flanked it with two gorgeous chairs, also vintage from Santuan, in a crushed velvet, and pillows by one of my favorite companies, Caravel. Okay, we have to talk about these doors. So I showed my architect a bazillion Pinterest pictures of beautiful Parisian doors, and he actually had these made for me. So they're actually new, but he got them to look old with all these gorgeous detail moldings. And look what I found also at one of my fairs. And they are old. He told me they were impossible to put on these doors, but I begged him to do it. And I just love them, and the detail is just stunning. You just can't find these kind of beautiful hardware anymore, but I was so happy I could. So we do close this off if people want privacy, or if someone's sleeping and jet lag, we like to have an option to either close them or keep them open. But they're definitely one of my favorite things in this whole apartment. This chandelier, I can't say it's my favorite because everything's my favorite, but this chandelier was wedged on a street fair off to the corner behind a dealer's kind of, table, and I felt like I had laser vision and went straight for it. And it was so charming. It's kind of a little wonky. You can see the crystals are not sitting straight, but I just loved it. And I thought this medallion could hold a huge chandelier here. And once we put it up, he had to re-electrify it. Yes, my contractor probably wanted to kill me, but I really loved it. I thought it just kind of made the whole room. But a fun fact, my children, I have boys, they tend to be tall. They always knock their head here. So I'm always telling them to go around, but I just love it, and I don't want to replace it. My husband wants me to replace it, but I want to keep it. And again, I just think the crystals are just so old-fashioned and remind me of my grandmother's house. So it was a keeper. Can we talk about these moldings? This is called the wedding cake, and it kind of has the detail that one would see on a wedding cake. So when my architect told me about this, I thought, oh my goodness. So I was actually fortunate enough to choose the design with this master plaster person, and he and I kind of detailed, I had to have flowers in it because of course being a florist, it was really something that was near and dear to me. So again, the leaf motif, which you see also plays off of my candlesticks over there, and the rest of the molding as well in the home. If you can see one little detail, the little imprinted flower here, and then I mimicked it here on the moldings, and again, all completely handmade. The moldings were very important to me. When we did move in, the apartment was renovated and it was more modernized, so I wanted to bring a lot of the charm back in. So one important part of it was the detail of all of this gorgeous molding, and everything had a thought and a purpose behind it, and it really came together because it's a good sized room, but I didn't want to overwhelm it, and I didn't want it to be too much or too busy. And I think we just really did a great job, and it was perfect with all of the little detail that we did put into it. So I have a very dear friend, and she knew I was looking for tables and other little small items for the apartment. We went, I think, a whole full day of going into a million shops, and that night we were heading to dinner, and she called me and she said, on my way home, I stopped at this really small antique store and I bought you a table. And I thought, whoa, okay. And when she brought it, I'm thinking a big table, and she brought me this adorable bar cart, and I thought, it's absolutely perfect. She purchased it sight unseen without me, even requesting it. And I think it's just adorable and charming, and it fits the perfect for like a little bar, perfect for a pre-aperitif dinner drink. And it's just, again, I've added little vintage pieces of moldings. This one is wood. It was off of a chateau, I've been told. But again, anything with flowers, just have to. One thing about this whole apartment is it is so quiet, and I attribute that to all of the insulated doors. These doors open, they're double, and you have like little balconies out here where you could put potted plants. I would love to do that if I lived here full time, but unfortunately I do not. So right now it's bare, but maybe I can get a friend to come water for me. I have a thing for religious items. So I found this at Saint-Ouen. It came out of a cathedral, and it was holding all of the large pillar candles. It's hand carved, also late 1800s. I thought it was so charming. It's almost as big as me, and I'm about 5'8", and it is just a perfect piece for this corner. I thought there was like kind of some dead space, so isn't this so charming? I just have to get myself a big candle now. Back to art. This is something I thought would really be great for the apartment, is some modern art. This is black and white photographs. I found it in a beautiful gallery in the Marais, and it's a photographer who shot iconic places here in Paris, and just this guy here just kind of standing with his car on a bridge, so Parisian. And then this one, because I do have a French dog. He's a Cavachon, but half French, a Bichon Frisé. And this is just something I thought was so adorable. It reminds me of my own little dog, Obi. And this is a square not too far from my apartment. And again, I actually wonder like where he was going, what he was doing, but he looks like he has his bag, and he's probably coming back from the grocery store with his 3 dogs. Adorable. Le chien. In this area, I think there's so many artisan brands, and one thing I love to do is have like different types of vases. This is a brand called Alix Serenice. It's here in the 6th, and she makes beautiful pottery all done in Limoges, so it's all porcelain. This one has a little bit of like almost like a little basket weave with a little detail, and I think it embraces the flowers so well. Fun story, yesterday I ran to the market, the street fair market that we had in our neighborhood, and got these beautiful flowers, which is ranunculus, some gorgeous double peony tulips, and oh my god, and this viburnum, and it smells so good. So just to brighten the table, had to have flowers, of course. Next we move on to this marble table. I love how it anchors. Sometimes when I bring all my antiques back from the fairs and I need to price them and to skew them, and sometimes I just kind of put them all on this table so I can visually see them. So it's a great landing table, or again if you're entertaining and you want to bring out some hors d'oeuvres. So I love this table so much. Also purchased at Saint-Ouen. Can see a theme here. I guess I love it there, and I love the old iron base, and again you'll see little medallions on either side of the legs, which is adorable. Paired it with some more vintage art because I wanted the apartment to have some modern art but also some antique, and this is just such a good, really beautiful picture with lots of landscape. Because I wanted simple little detail and I would be putting a lot of things on this table, I went with these gorgeous candelabras, again with some floral detail. I think they're brass, but they could just be metal. But again, found them at an antique fair. Sometimes you just buy things you like. You know, I don't have this like set thing where it has to be a certain age or from a certain, era. I just like what I see, and I buy what I love. So these were definitely something I loved. So I knew I needed some lamps in this room, and I searched everywhere for some really beautiful kind of modern lighting, and again stopped at Saint-Ouen, saw this mid-century modern lamp, and it was the perfect size, perfect color, and I love these kind of round bulbs. It kind of reminds me of like the earth and the stars, so it definitely was coming here, and it works just so perfectly in this corner. And sometimes I just put this on at night and the whole room is glowing, so it's one of my favorite pieces. This is a very unique piece. I wanted a very simple coffee table, not a lot of detail, nothing too large. So when I found this, actually also at Porte de Vanves, it was pretty much covered with lots of other things, and I uncovered that it was a mirror on top, so fell in love instantly. Has the metal and also the detail in the legs, and it was just a simple, most perfect size. And it's very movable, so it was one of my favorite pieces to have here, but just really kind of unique and just the perfect size for this room. One thing I thought was important is to have a really comfortable sofa. This one turns into a sofa bed, which is really comfortable, I've been told, because I upgraded the mattress at the dealer that we went to purchase this in. It's beautiful when it comes out because it has an extra long base to it. So it was really a special purchase. And what's great too is all the curtains here were done by Madura, and they're all blackout. So this could be a really charming area to sleep, and paired it with some really just simple linen pillows. And one of my favorite brands is a company called Antoinette Poisson. You'll see some other touches throughout the apartment, but this pillow I just think spoke to me. And I loved how it had some like deep colors and blues and browns just to bring in a little bit more color. So just paired that on the sofa, and look at the little tassels. Love the little details. French do it well. So of course we needed a rug to anchor all the furniture in this room. I was fortunate enough to come when France has their big sales. Usually it's in January and June. I went to the Bon Marché, which is one of the largest department stores here in Paris, and they have a home decor store. This was sitting in the showroom, and I walked in and I was like, I'll take it. I knew it was going to be the perfect size, perfect color. And when I got it back here and kind of set everything up, it was just instantly perfection. So very, very good find. I want to point something out to you. Generally, most Parisian apartments do not have air conditioning. My husband said it was a prerequisite that we had to have air conditioning. So especially if we're here in the later months of the summer. But what I really find interesting is because we couldn't put central air conditioning here, there was another quick fix. And what our contractor did is he drilled a hole into the wall out to the edge of the building, and it's capped off on the other side. But what's interesting is there is a small hose that gets attached, and there is a unit that you can use for each room. So we have a unit in here, and then we did the same in our bedroom, and it really works really well. And we have air conditioning, so on those hot days we turn it on and it's very quiet. You can sleep, you can work, and it's no problem. And we just kind of hide it behind the curtain. It really works. So once we did sign the papers and got the keys to our apartment, we loved, like I said, the location. We did love the apartment. The renovation wasn't too horrible because the previous owner, who was a doctor, and she actually held her appointments here in the salon, and she pretty much modernized it. She added new windows, which was wonderful. She insulated. So it was really quite nice, but I felt like it needed more charm. So we hired an architect, which is like a contractor here in France, and we talked about bringing some of the old charm. I love the Haussmann buildings where they have the parquet floors and the moldings and the plaster walls. So I wanted to bring in a little bit of that charm. So when we sat and had our first consultation, he actually was able to get some of the drawings that were here previously, and we built the whole room around these pictures that he was able to recover. So you'll see the moldings that we put back in. Cute story. He told me that all of the moldings had to be hand done, and they would make it by plaster, but we had to wait for the certain person because there's a lot of people that don't really do that art form anymore. So when I did get to meet the master plasterer, he came in and he told me he had just finished up at Versailles, and I said to myself, oh, how about we get your assistant? And he laughed and he said, no, I'm going to make it beautiful. I'm going to make it like Versailles. And it's kind of a joke. So my husband's like, yeah, you have your petite Versailles here. Other than that, I think modernizing it was just like the kitchens, the bathrooms, but then we wanted to again add some more charm into it, so we added a lot of other things as well. This is it for the living room, or salon as they say, and now we're going to head to the kitchen. When we were looking at all the apartments, most of the kitchens we saw were the size, probably like half the size or even smaller. My husband called them closets, and I had to agree. So when we found this apartment, we knew this was a huge kitchen for Paris. Not only did it have all the amenities with a full refrigerator, most of the time you see a half refrigerator, and it also has a dishwasher, which again, a full-size dishwasher. Sometimes they have the really petite ones. But what I loved about this is the floor. It has the old chevron parquet floors, and my architect has been begging me to replace them, but I just won't because I love them so much. But also it's modernized, so it has a lot of storage, which I really liked. And also, you know, my coffee maker and just all the necessities you need. Because eating out 3 meals a day in France, you would basically spend all your time at a restaurant because, as you know, the French take their time. And I was sitting for 2 3-hour lunches and 2 and 3 hour dinners. And when I'm here for such a short time that I do have a lot of things to do. So sometimes it's just nice to have a kitchen where I can make something simple for dinner. Like last night, I just made something really simple. And I like that I have the option not to have to eat out every single meal. So I have my breakfast here. I come back from a long day and I might have a tea in the salon. But it's just nice to be able to have this room. And when I was designing it, pretty much with the architect, I was so concerned about what to pick and when to pick it, and I didn't want to feel rushed. So I took my time and everything was white. And I knew, okay, this is not going to work. And I really wanted to make it feel a little bit more old Parisian to go with the apartment. Hence why I went with this really cool wallpaper. It's a brand called Antoinette Poisson. And it is an artisan brand that makes domino paper, and the paper is this linen, so it's very thick, and the way it absorbs the color is just so much different than I've seen before. So I also thought this pattern would be kind of a little different in a kitchen. When I told my friends that I would be doing a black and kind of beige wallpaper in the kitchen, they thought I was crazy, but it works, and I really love how it just brought this room to life. And it's one of my favorite rooms. And I know I keep saying favorite, but it really is. The other thing I'd love to add is I actually brought this back from the States because I knew I wanted it to be a certain size. So I had this made, brought it in my suitcase, had my contractor put it up, and then I just enhanced it with this vintage wine bucket that of course we do use when we serve wine. Also more vintage art that I just had framed, and just did like a little stone urn to bring a little hominess with the plants. And of course there's some cutting areas, and the natural light here is just stunning. I love having this window and that I can look out in the morning. I just put simple linen shades with this gorgeous vintage detailed curtain holder. And you can see the other side here. I just think this detail is so beautiful. Lighting, I feel, is so important. So task lighting in the kitchen is, essential when you are going to be needing the light, especially when it's nighttime. So I found these at a fair that are glass and had them electrified. And instead of just doing one for the room, I decided to do 2. And I really think because it's a nice long kitchen, that the room can really hold the 2. So added again the little detail with the canopy that matched the wall color, the ceiling color, and it just works. And it's really great to come in, and it brings a lot of light into the room. And also they're incredibly charming with this scallop edge. So adorable. Another thing that attracted me to this kitchen is these built-in shelves, and I am a big fan of just putting like things that are usable but also look pretty. And I found this prized champagne bucket. I think it says it is from 1798. I mean, how cool is this? So sometimes I just fill this with, fruit or whatever I'm serving, or as they say, you can use it for champagne. So love that. Another thing is I found this plate at an antique fair, and I thought it was so cute, and I was originally just going to put it somewhere else in the apartment, but a friend of mine, unbeknownst to me, found another one. So it's a man and a woman, and because I have 2, I added them into this kitchen little nooks here. And because we're in France, I knew I had to use a lot of little vintage things to, hold standard things that you normally would use, just a basic container. So I love this pedestal. It's usually used for cakes, but I'm just using it to have candy, French candy. I also love these little silver platters. And this holds my bread. And if you are in Paris and you want to go to an amazing bread bakery, this is Poland. And they also make the most delicious butter cookies. If you are in town, definitely head there and get these. So again, just charming little things that I love to use here in the apartment. And this is one of my favorite. I've had people actually barter me for this on who, you know, friends come and they're like, Sandra, I'm stealing this from you. And I said, absolutely not. It's my little sugar bowl. It's actually not a sugar bowl. It was used for, I think, jams or jellies, but I use it as my sugar bowl. But look at this detail. Again, you can see I have the same reoccurring theme here throughout my home. And, you know, even these little cafe spoons that I found with this cute little detail. I guess it's in the details, as they say, and this is one of my favorite. So cute. Again, being a bit busy shopkeeper, sometimes coming home and just wanting to cook. I love trying different French recipes. One of my favorite books is this one called My Paris Kitchen. David actually lives here in Paris. And if you want some great recipes, sometimes I just make a roasted chicken with vegetables. It's delish. He is such an inspiration and one that I would say highly get because, you know, in French way of cooking is always the simple ingredients. It's not layers of mixing all different things, and that's what I like to cook, and just keeping it really simple. And everything is so incredibly fresh here. I went to the market yesterday and it was incredible, like, you know, huge peppers and legumes and white asparagus and things that I just don't see often at home. So I love to cook really in its natural state, and just a good baguette and some cheese and ham is also good when you're in a pinch. So it wouldn't be a French kitchen without a French breadboard. So I have a new French breadboard from a brand called Berard, which is really lovely. But then I also have an old vintage one, and you can see the wear in it. And I just love these. I do use them, but I also just love how they accent this area. And, you know, this adorable teapot I found, and I don't necessarily use it, but I just thought it had so much detail, and I needed like some other objet to enhance the kitchen, and found this and thought it was perfect. That's so cute. So I spoke about the mantle that was originally here, and here you can see this is where the hearth of the marble was. So I knew there was a fireplace in this area, hence why we added it to the adjoining side of the wall, which is where the salon is. So I love this part of history. My architect asked if I wanted to remove it, and I said absolutely not. I love the history behind it. I love the great reminder that someone lived here and perhaps used this as, you know, their fireplace in their home. So one of the things I used to do is, because our shows were in the evening, during the day I didn't have a lot to do, and I started stumbling into French flower shops. You're probably asking why. My mother was a floral designer, and I would go to these flower shops and, you know, think of the flowers spilling out into the streets. We just didn't have that back in the US at that time. So I was mesmerized by the beauty of just how many abundance of flowers. The shops, the florists as they're called, are quite small here, but they really make an impact with the florals that they carry and the types of flowers. Back when, you know, we were doing, you know, my mom would do bouquets with, you know, the standard baby's breath, carnations, leatherleaf, and here they were using wands of rosemary, peonies the size of like a dinner plate. It was actually something I've never seen. So I used to call my mom every Sunday and tell her about these flower shops. So hence I had this grand idea that we were going to open a French flower shop together. And of course, the name of the French flower shop I kind of interned at, truly I was washing buckets and just helping them cut flowers, but I felt so proud to be there. And the name of the flower shop was Les Fleurs. So I had this, again, dream with my mom that we were going to open a French flower shop. So when I did head back home, we started building the framework of opening this French flower shop. We actually opened it 35 years ago. I was 23, and we were so proud to have the same types of flowers, the same type of look that the French Parisian flower shops would have. And I just was so proud. And it was definitely a hard time in my life, because after we opened, my mom passed away a month later. And I truly believe like her whole spirit is still with me. And every time I come to Paris, I walk the same streets and look at the flower shop, and I'm reminded of her. So as the years went on, I definitely started to really miss Paris, and I would find any excuse to come back. I was a true Francophile. So I decided that because the flower shops would use like old, zinc buckets and other articles that were antique and vintage, I thought I'm going to start doing that. So I started making trips back to Paris for years and would collect things. First, I used to stuff them in my suitcase because I really didn't know how to get like the goods back to the US. It's actually a question a lot of folks ask me now. And now what we do is I come to buy here and I go to the big brocantes or fairs, and we fill containers now and ship them back to the States, and we display them all over our store. And it's quite remarkable because the things that you can get here is still so enchanting, so beautiful. I love the fairs we go to. And now I'd love to show you an adorable half bath that I did with some really cute wallpaper. But before that, this is an area that was empty space. We weren't sure what to do with it. And because again, we have 5 kids and we don't have all 5 kids coming to visit us, but when we do, we wanted to have something that we could, have extra sleeping areas. So this is actually a Murphy bed that comes out to 2 bunk beds. So it's great for, the boys when they're here and they want to just, crash. The other thing is it's a great table to work off of. Sometimes I have all my paperwork and I paired it with these adorable poufs or ottomans that the fabric is pierre frais, and did it in a modern kind of tone on tone to match with the wood. And it's just a really great area to have this extra space to, again, accommodate, when the boys are here or friends are here. So I just love it. Because I love adding little touches throughout the house, this was something that was just adorable, and it's a flower frog. So if you can see the holes here, you fill it with water and then you put the stems in, and it's just a very different type of vase that you can use for your blooms, and I love it, and I do use it. So it's here just waiting for me to use it when I do these things. Also, I don't know if any of you know this, but I wrote a book, and the book is all about French blooms and my story about how I came to France and became a floral designer, and about my home and the story of my mom. So if you ever want to read it, it's really a heartfelt story and one that I cherish. This is a long hallway that takes you to the bedroom and other areas of the apartment. Because it's a long wall, I found this artwork with sketching of like kind of lots of people, and I thought it spoke to me. I thought it was a really cool piece of art, and it's by an artist called Wayart, and I went a little crazy and I thought, even though it's kind of black and white, but I thought this texture and this detail would work really well, and it's a good sized piece, so it kind of anchors this wall, and of course more vintage lighting to add a little touch of je ne sais quoi. Off this long hallway, we have a charming half bath with this beautiful wallpaper that I adore, again from the brand Antoinette Poisson. I paired it with a lovely chandelier just to add a little charm to this small space, with a traditional French mirror, and it was the most perfect size. I also thought leaving this space a little open, I could add a medallion, and this mirror spoke to me. I saw it, I knew it would be perfect here. Another thing I loved is this is actually a Japanese artist, and her work is absolutely so beautiful, and it fit nicely with the theme of the wallpaper and everything else we were doing in the apartment. So I often get asked, especially being a shopkeeper, so many folks come in, Sandra, where should I go, to, what's the favorite gardens you go to? What's your favorite restaurants? What clothing stores? Where do you buy this? And the questions go on and on. So I actually decided to hire someone to help me, and we made a whole Paris guide, and it's time tested of all the places I've been to. It's so helpful, and I'm so honored that I can share all the places that I love and adore with all my guests. I'm actually thinking of doing one on how to buy an apartment here, because that is probably the next biggest question I get. I've heard so many folks are saying, like, how long and how often do you come? There is the 90-day rule. If you do not live here permanently, you are allowed a visa for 90 days. After 90 days, you do have to head back to the States. But I do want to maybe include something that I can help others, who I can share my journey that would help others. Maybe find a dream place here in Paris as well. Welcome to my bedroom. This was such a joy to find. Most of the bedrooms I went and saw in the apartments were teeny tiny, so to have this extra space to fit an actually good sized bed was just such a joy to find. One thing I loved about this room also is that it had this blank wall in the back, and I found this vintage wallpaper, almost like a mural, because I knew getting an artist to come in would be quite expensive. So I thought this would be a really nice touch to the bedroom and to anchor the room as well. And I also love these floors. They're the parquet floors that you saw in the kitchen, and I feel they just bring this room to life and have so much character. So I'm so glad we kept them. Really trying hard to delicately take care of them and not wear shoes all the time, and hopefully they're going to last a lot longer. A few details I wanted to get were, of course, a proper seat to put my shoes on, and this was the most perfect size. I got it from a French brand called Flea. I love it in the type of linen fabric we did, but look at this vintage light. It is just such a really fun, cool kind of light fixture. Wanted something different, and the flowers just spoke to me. Look at these tulips, they're so cute. Paired it also with more vintage art, and the frame is also vintage, so it pairs nicely with all the colors in this room, and I love her. I think she's looking over her shoulder, something kind of special. Then we wanted to get some bedside tables, and I didn't want them to be matchy, so this is just a traditional French marble end table, really petite, which I love the little iron detail around the base. This bedside table I found at Chateau, and the carving was so detailed and special that I knew it would be perfect for the side of this bed. And the knobs are just so simple, playing off to the carvings on either side, and it just works really nicely. Something I have to talk about, I thought nightstand with big lamps were going to be just too cumbersome or get knocked over. So I paired it with these two hanging medallions, also from the artist Alix Derenis. They're porcelain, and they have a little beaded texture on the top. I love the size, I love the scale. I thought it really played nicely against the ceiling and the gorgeous wallpaper mural. And they're actually quite taskful too, where we can use them for reading at night. For the bedding, I went very simple, mixed it with a gorgeous quilt and some linen and a velvet pillow. Very simple. I didn't want it to compete with the mural. But one piece my husband insisted I get for the bedroom is something where he could charge his phone, his computer. I found this also at a brocante and thought this was the most perfect size. I love the detail. The drawer holds our chargers, wherever else we need, and it's just great for us to put whatever we need to put down when we're traveling here. And it's the most perfect size. I could not have made it more perfect, and I love it. It's a really great piece. One of the things I also found really challenging is most of the apartments had no closet space. So when I walked in to this master bedroom and saw this walk-in closet with ample room to put extra linens, all my clothes, even a little hamper, I was like, this is just amazing. So it's truly a joy to have so much space and to be able to, put all the clutter in here, and I love it. It's great. A unique detail are this lovely beams you'll see throughout the apartment, and I love that they're exposed, and it kind of gives it almost like a little barny feel, but I really like it because it kind of grounds the room. It picks up what the parquet floors are doing, and it's like a really cool entrance to my little walk-in closet here. So now we're gonna head to the master bathroom. So you see more of this beam work throughout this part of the house. And I love this bathroom because it's actually quite large. It's been modernized, and what's really great, it has a full bathtub and a shower and another toilet. So it has a lot of space in here, overhead, rain head. It's really just great size for this size apartment. The artwork in here is a little bit of a mix. So I have one vintage over here, but this is also that photographer who shoots black and white, and this is a cafe, and I just loved the detail where it's flowers, and it's just very simple with the old Haussmann style apartment building in the back, and it's really I don't know, it speaks to me and just reminds me of Paris. So I love when I walk in and I see it. One of the main reasons I really wanted a place to rest my head here is because I do come for work. I come 5 to 6 times a year. One being to go to all the antique fairs and to fill containers and bring them back to our shop. The other reason is, of course, to get inspiration, like just seeing how they design. I'm actually in the area of the Saint-Germain-des-Prés where all the designers are here, the big brands like Pierre Frey and the wallpaper companies, and the inspiration here is just amazing. So another reason I come. And the third reason I come is because I lead tours here, and that's the reason I'm here this week. We have 9 lovely guests coming and 1 gent. We're super excited, and what we do is every morning we either meet here in my apartment for a petit déjeuner or one of our local hotels that our guests are staying in, and then we have chauffeurs that take our guests with us, of course, as your hosts, and we bring you to amazing places. We bring you to artisan brands, we bring you to brocantes, we bring you to the famous Saint-Ouen, the Marché de Puces, which is where the biggest, largest antique market in all of Paris lies. It's such a fun place. You find all kinds of, oddities, but also really amazing vintage mirrors, and actually you can get vintage buttons and make a necklace. This is a Chanel one I found in Saint-Ouen. And we also love to show guests just the way the French live, the cafes, the restaurants, and really soak it all in and have an experience. I do tell all the ladies that come with us that if you want to go see the Eiffel Tower and the Louvre, then that's not the tour. I do. I really want to immerse you on how I live, what markets I go to. Actually went to a market yesterday to get some flowers, and it's actually made famous because Ina Garten, when she's here, it's the one she goes to. So the food there is outstanding, but just very different than what we see in America. So I love to, invite my guests to see that and see how I live. So. what makes this house a home, I feel, are all the touches that I put into this home, because when I was shopping around, I just didn't want to go to one shop and just, collect everything and say, okay, I'm done. I took my time. I wanted to make sure it was the right piece. I also wanted something to speak to me. If it really wasn't my style or something I just was like okay about, I didn't really want to purchase it. So to make this house a home, I had to make sure I loved everything. And if I loved it, I knew it would sit so beautifully here. And every time I would revisit and come back to Paris, I feel it would warm my heart. So I encourage that. Buy what you love.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.